Thanks for coming back. I know it's always kind of a bit of a push needed to come back after for the last session. We're going to make it fun and entertaining enough for you. It's, first of all, great to have an amazing group of panelists here. We have a cargo airline, we have an express integrator, we have a shipper and forwarder in one. We'll get to that. So we'll have Anne from Air New Zealand Cargo. Tribe lead is basically in the modern agile organization of your airline. The name, that's great. Gallo, elite group. We will understand and learn more about what you do. And Pano from DHL Express. Maybe we start by just saying this title is actually a bit too trivial, right? Everyone in this room knows that Pharma and Perishables matter for air cargo. They matter a lot. So what we will dive into is not do they matter, but kind of how do we make sure we deliver to the promises that are needed by shippers of these precious commodities as an industry. Yeah? And it's not trivial. Yeah? And South America is quite at the core of a lot of these perishable flows, be it flowers, be it salmon, be it fruit and vegetables, but also increasingly pharmaceuticals, and we'll hear more about that. So maybe let's just dive in. Anne, tell us a bit about how these verticals matter to Air New Zealand Cargo.
Thank you, and good afternoon, everyone. They matter because for us and our exporters in New Zealand, perishables is what we do as a country.
Yeah.
50% or more of our exports are perishables. So therefore, this is a commodity that matters, yes, to us as an airline because it is attractive, but really matters to the New Zealand economy. And I think that's ultimately what the system is here to support.
Thank you. Gallo, tell us also how much you actually ship. It's fascinating.
Well, we are 100% vertically integrated company, except by the airlines, of course. We don't have planes. That's why we have these wonderful partners. Let's say we are very stable. The flower industry is a very stable business. I think that's one of the biggest benefits. So we usually move around 57, 67 equivalent planes per week. But in holidays, like Valentine's or Mother's Day, we can move up to 35 to 40 planes a day during the 20 or the 15 days of the season. So it's a big category. I think it's very relevant, especially from South America to the US and to the rest of Europe. The benefits of the business, as I said, flower industry is not only connecting growing and farmers to the rest of the world, but also is the base of the payload of many of the airlines nowadays going northbound.
Thank you. Pano?
Well, thank you very much. Appreciate that. It's an honor to be here, and thank you for that. So actually, DHL, even though that I represent Express Division, I would like to talk more about which we are in the DHL Group, which I think everyone knows the DHL Group. It's the holding for three big divisions, which is Express, Global Forwarding, and DHL Supply Chain, right? So, and also we have the division which owns the cargo side from aircraft, which is aviation, right? Yeah. DHL Aviation, who serves directly to the business units, particularly and most emphasized to Express. So yeah, I mean, talk about perishables and pharma. Yeah, I think for us in DHL, it's very interesting because it's a very highly value industry sector from the pharma side, and also which requires very specific solutions and integrated ones, and a real GDP framework that really give confidence to the customers that really trust in the reliability and visibility, and that's something very important where DHL is really investing a lot as a DHL Logistics Healthcare, specifically for pharma.
Great. It's always good at this Air Cargo Summit also to have integrators present because they are, in a way, a cargo airline without being only a cargo airline, so it's always good to have that perspective also. Gallo, let me ask you, kind of seasonality is a huge thing, huge kind of constraint, also challenge in shipping perishables, shipping your core products. Let's talk Valentine's Day, Mother's Day, and so on. With the infrastructure, with the setting of Latin America, What makes it so complicated, and what is required to solve seasonality?
Yeah, I think the flower industry season, I always say that either we have to hate ourselves or truly love what we do to be in this business, and that goes even from the exporters to the airlines and the cargo agencies. But it's a massive transformation for a matter of weeks during the day. So it's truly the matter and the accomplishment of, I call it the digitalization of the business, being able to scale X3, X4, X5 in a matter of days and then come back to truly to regular operation. I believe as the time has come, most of the operations that are happening, especially in South America, in Ecuador and Colombia, that are the biggest producers of flowers in South America. Overall, we have been adapting our operations to what the seasonality is. So even without knowing, airlines, from airports, from even farms and producers, we have transformed our operations based on what the season is expecting from us. Infrastructure, of course, is an issue, I believe, because of the continuous growth of the industry. This is an industry that grows 5% annually worldwide, especially has peaks different growth in volume in the US and Canada. But the infrastructure at the airport level, of course, the challenge, not only a challenge for us as exporters, but also especially also for airlines that we see that happening in some specific days. But as overall, I think that the industry value how important it is to serve this part of the holidays that we have, Valentine's and Mother's Day. And we have been transforming it, not only from the airline side. If you can imagine, it's growing 5 times in how do you manage that in warehouses? How do you pass to 50 planes a week to 35 planes a day, especially only us, plus the rest of the industry? How do you transform that into the buildings, into the cold chain, maintain protocols, maintain security standards? And I think that is what the industry is about. This is a fascinating industry, fascinating business, with the challenges, and it's a very underestimated industry in the matter of everything that is behind this industry is completely digitalized. I think it's one of the most fascinating supply chains in the world. We consider that we manage the most delicate commodity on earth, not only perishable.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you wouldn't assume. Now, both Perishables and Pharma share basically the same characteristic, or one brutal truth is that small process variation can mean product loss or patient risk. So consistency and also the cold chain required for many perishables, but also pharma, is so important. And how are you investing, and what are you investing in?
I think the key here is that it's the entire supply chain that needs to work together. So yes, it is us working with our freight forwarding customers, but also understanding what happens before product gets to them, to make sure that the flow is optimal from start to finish. So that's one. The second thing is making sure that the investment is actually split across the supply chain, because one of the risks, yes, there may not be enough investment, but there's also a risk of overinvestment. And then everyone trying to recover that investment, so whether that's the freight forwarders, the airport companies, lots of people involved. And then thirdly, I think you touched on digitalization already. That's another piece where for perishable and time-sensitive product, we really need to all, as an ecosystem, invest in joining the dots, connecting the dots, and making that more transparent to the customer. It's ultimately the exporter that needs to know where their product is.
Yeah. Pano, you as an express player, you have a bit more control of your end-to-end chain of transport and process. Where are you investing, and why do you do that in terms of cold chain?
Well, I think it's, I mean, the whole chain, it's important to you understand very well and have a reliable first last mile, which is something very important. That's why also in the company we're investing like in cryo PDP, right? Which is something that gives us the first and last mile delivery. It's very important that you have a lot of constraints around the supply chain on the pharma side, when you really need to give full visibility, have a very good GDP framework in order to give that reliability to the sector. So it's very important to also to have a very good handbook, contingency playbook, in order to overcome that possible disruption that you may have because of force majeure event that happened in the logistics side, and you have to be really prepared for that in order to comply with at least with the pharma sector, also with the perishables. But on the pharma side, you also have the challenge that possibly you have a product lost or life risk, which is very important to have this supply chain very understandable and give that trust and reliability to the sector.
That's the first great takeaway. It's not only the physical cold chain infrastructure, it's as much also the data tracking to ensure that you see excursions, maybe you see them even earlier, and then your intervention management if something goes wrong. If you, especially you two, think about South America, is South America catching up to global cold chain standards, or do these standards need some adaptation for the region?
I think that it's less the question of catching up. I think it's more to have consistency and reliability, right? And in line with all these GDP frameworks, that really you can demonstrate that you have the full control of the supply chain. That's really when you're going to add value. I think customers are looking also for a simple transport. They're looking for a solution, right? And of course, these partnerships that have, or this first last mile is important. This digitalization. It's important to provide information on real-time frameworks. So that's really what they're looking for. It's not only a cargo. They need to have a very reliable supplier that can integrate all these frameworks.
Carlo, you're an insider of all these markets.
I believe that if we take over probably the last 7-8 years is what the customer is expecting, and probably many of you deal with customers like us, that the sophistication of many of the customers, importers and exporters, has increased. So what we're expecting is even much more from the supply chain. So it's not too much about infrastructure. I believe the infrastructure is a part of consequence of the expectations that we have in the way we receive the product, in the way we manage the product, in the way the temperatures that it has to be aligned, and also the handle of the product should be executed. But also the expectation of the process of when the companies start consolidating and transforming and becoming more sophisticated, like in our industry, the flower industry. These are agro industries, agro companies that has a high level of sophistication. The pressure is going to go into the whole supply chain and the parts of the supply chain. So the airline, the cargo agency, the infrastructure. And I think that is good. I think that increase the value of the product, increase the supply chain, pull everybody up to excellence. And the result is more profitable companies, happier customers, and growth in consumption.
Yeah, got it. Anne, shifting to pharma shipments, which probably Air New Zealand imports a lot from the US and from Asia. The typical shipment flow, what's the highest risk minute in your view on these operations?
Most of us is connecting from other airlines onto us. So often that handover point is where things can go wrong. So that's the operational answer to that question. Yeah.
So what makes you make progress on these handovers that are critical?
For us, that's looking at who we're working with in each of the ports and making sure that the ground handlers work in line with our expectations. And there are lots of standards already out there. So it's making sure everyone in the chain meets that standard.
Got it. Pano, how do you see the highest risk minute at a premium express shipment?
I think it's, you mentioned already the handoffs. It's something very important. You need to really to take care of it. And it's when possible is where you have the most or the major risks across all the supply chain, right? So but if you have a good, as I said before, a good playbook contingency plan, when you have and you have the audit trials, when you audit all the process and then you create those plans and contingency, then you can come up with a reliable solution. Because at the end, that's going to happen. I mean, in the world of logistics, that constraints happen, and we are exposed to that. So, and creating these frameworks from a GDP perspective, and also with a solid playbook hand for any contingency, that's where we can offer a sustainable, reliable solution.
Yeah. Oh, that makes sense. So I think the kind of workflows so that there are no blind handoffs, that there's kind of the handoffs are managed as well as if they would be in kind of your own company. That is, I think, what we see across this industry as most critical. And Galo, you said you are a vertically integrated company. Part of the desire to be, or the impulse to be that, is probably also coming from the necessary control, right?
100%. Yes, at the end of the day, when you have a speed that you have to cut a flower since day one, you cut it on the field. And in order to receive, pack, ship, transform, do a bouquet, put in water, ship it to each one of the retails or mass market in the world in less than 4 days, I mean, you truly have to have control over your supply chain, or you have to have partners that goes in that speed and they're willing to grow 5 times during a holiday and reduce their capacity during summer. So if you don't find many of those, you integrate yourself.
Yeah. To the 2 carriers here on the panel, what are your expectations? What can the shippers do to help you deliver pharmaceutical and perishable shipments on time, in condition?
Well, I mean, you need to give full visibility of what, I mean, communication and of course understand which is the type of solution they require, even though it's for the pharma sector, even though it is for the perishable sector. It's a matter of have a full understanding of which is what they're looking for, and you have to be embedded to the solution they are looking for. So I think it's very important to understand which are the critical paths they want to follow, and also what does it mean in terms of what we can offer in terms of a GDP demonstrable or practice in order to provide the solution. For us, in the group, it's a kind of to combine different solutions, the different capabilities that we have in the Express, and also with the global forwarding, and also with supply chain. When you can combine that using our capability of our air network, that's when we become a really sustainable, reliable solution. And that's a combination of these parts when you can really offer something very sustainable.
What about packaging? Something as
I mean,
simple
packaging
as,
is, I mean, different elements, of course.
Yeah.
The packaging is something very important. Understand which is the type of product you're transporting in terms of a life cycle, right? Control temp is something very important. Data loggers is something that you have to add to the supply chain. And those elements are really key in order to understand where could be some constraints, and also to understand where, when a typical shipment, when, I mean, the pickup, the delivery, or the last mile, the first mile, all this stuff, it's something you really need to have very good mapping on that in order to provide a good reliability solution, right?
Yeah.
So,
Anna, anything you want from your shippers?
Yeah, I think it's about, I mean, we've got the shippers and we've got the freight forwarders.
Yeah.
I think it's making sure that the communication flows as efficiently as possible through that chain. So yes, there's packaging, but I think there's also a big part around making sure that we, in season, because a lot of our products, similar to here, are very seasonal, making sure that we stay connected throughout the season to understand variability and what they're seeing, so we can react and ensure we've got enough cold storage available, both onshore and then offshore.
Yeah. Let's switch to a topic which in the last 12, 18 months has become a bit less prominent, sustainability. But for perishables and pharma in different ways, it's very important, right? I mean, perishables are often high weight, less value, so basically a lot of added cost, absorbing a lot of added cost for more sustainable transport solutions is not easy. For pharma, it might be easier to absorb, but then again, packaging, etc., all that secures the shipment is also not too easy to turn sustainable. Let me start with you, Galo. I heard fascinating kind of actions that you took on the sustainability front. Fill us in.
Well, sustainability, I believe, if this audience can take away from this panel, especially, I believe, is the challenge of sustainability for the perishables worldwide, especially by air cargo. I believe that nowadays we have retailers, especially in Europe, that they are just planning not to receive any more flower produce. Let's not talk about flowers, produce that rise by air. So they're forcing and they're enforcing the shipments by ocean. We don't feel that still in the US, but we're getting close to that. I think more than the government of turn is reacting in some way, that's something that sooner or later is gonna kick off. Is one of the biggest challenges. If you take the flowers, for example, I always say that the flowers is amazing growth and one of the strongest categories in supermarkets because it's one of the 3 gifts that you have in the supermarket. You have wine, chocolate, or flowers. And flowers is actually a gift that you buy without guilt. It will not improve your cholesterol. It will not reduce your cholesterol. It will not impact your cholesterol. It will not make you feel fat. It will fit you. I mean, it's one of the products that you buy without guilt. The moment we start seeing in the UPC of a bunch of flowers, the red, green, or yellow of the emissions of CO2 emissions, then the perception of the consumption will completely change. And that is going to happen, I believe, soon in Europe and no very far away in the US. So sustainability is a key. I think that we have to work as an industry. I'm talking about from the airline perspective to the importers and exporters. I believe that from our business point of view, we have the option of moving our product to ocean transportation. We're being pushed to do that, especially from all our farms in Kenya into Europe. But that's a complete transformation of the industry, especially from our side, from the supply chain concepts, all the digitalization of the business, the lead times and everything, varieties. But we're being forced for that. So I believe there's lots to do. We have been doing a lot of initiatives together with LAN. We did this Valentine's, I think, over 6 planes of SAF. SAF is an option. It's expensive. We have to understand what is going to happen, and especially how IATA is going to support us, having the European associations accepting that as carbon tickets. So we have to understand how to work together as an industry to make that happen and move forward. We also have to do innovation. One of the things that I believe we have to work together is to innovate the capacity in the planes. We put boxes in place just to put boxes in planes, and we are decided to charge because we charge chargeable weight or real weight. But how we can improve that, how we can work together to improve the efficiency of the packages that we use to reduce the number of planes versus capacity, that creates rentability, profitability to the planes, and reduce costs for the exporters.
Thank you, Carlo. Anne, New Zealand is a very eco-friendly country. How do you think about it in the air cargo context?
In reality, the change will be driven by consumers and consumer behavior, and it will filter through the supply chain. And some of it will be regulatory, that's for sure. At the moment, we still have lots of different markets to tap into, but it is a topic that we are working on with the entire industry. So we're looking at SAF options, and making also sure that we fly as little packaging as possible. But at the end of the day, it will come down to consumer perception, and I think the point around how we work as an industry to optimize our capacity is a very good call out.
Got it. Pano, DHL has been kind of a front runner with the Go Green products. How has the momentum developed in sustainability in the last year or two, also in your South America region here?
Well, yeah, I mean, the most realistic progress today is, for us, and I think for the world, is the SAF adoption and the smarter operational design, right?
Yeah.
I mean, better routing, fewer handoffs, better forecasting, and yeah, every handoff increases risks, and adopting and have a balance and adopt this SAF and adopt this balanced approach. It's something interesting and important that we can offer to the customer, to the sector, right? Reusable packaging offers sustainable benefits, but in some markets, reverse logistics can add something very, very important to balance that approach, right?
Got it. But is basically shipper demand for Go Green products still growing or keeping at the same level or slightly declining, to the extent you can tell the audience?
I mean, yeah, customers and market demands today to have this sustainable shipping and to have a clear ESG strategy, right? So in our case specifically, DHL has been, since 2-3 years ago, we launched all these Go Green logistics and adopting the SAF, and we can offer it to the customers, and we can cover their demands, and also we contribute to the world and to the customer solutions. So when we adapt this all the supply chain that we can offer to the industry, and we balance with the SAF adoption or the ESG strategy, then that becomes something very reliable, very important to the market, right?
Got it. Let's do another shift towards capacities, available capacities. We have talked a lot about the disruptions out there, geopolitical issues in the world. Do especially perishable shippers need to fear access to capacity in environments like that? Why or why not? Let me start with you, Anne.
So certainly for Air New Zealand cargo, the way our revenue management system works is that any of our existing shippers don't have to fear capacity constraints. I think the problem exists when routes to Europe, for example, completely fall away. That is definitely a concern. I think the question around the seasonability and the variability in the demand for perishable products in a country like New Zealand that is very seasonal, that is something I think we've learned to adapt. We do it well. It's most of what we ship, so we just ensure that we balance the peaks and troughs very well and make sure we stay close to our shippers and freight forwarders to understand their pipelines.
Got it. Carlo?
Look, I think we all went through crises in our industry. We went through COVID, and here we are. We went through duties, and here we are. Now, let's see what happened with Middle East, but here we'll be. I mean, the adaptation of the industries and the markets, there are many things going on. There are many things happening. There is the activation of Venezuela. Hopefully, there is going on the fluctuation from place, from Asia, e-commerce, everything. We have to see how it plays. I believe that especially from perishables, from the side that I know and we understand that is from South America into the US and from the Kenyan farms and African farms into Europe, we are a business that we run every single day. I mean, we are a business that we run 12 months a year. We're a important base load for the industry. And I'm pretty sure that the industry will protect that in some way to maintain and be able to confront together and support together in future crises.
Yeah. Pano?
Can you repeat me the question, please?
It's the question around, should small exporters fear that kind of given capacity crunch that might happen now with Middle Eastern capacity is not there, or other reasons that they get displaced?
Well, I mean, yeah, I mean that could be the world is changing, it's happening, and we have to adapt and also to cover their needs, what we're going to have. So I think that particularly in Peru, exports are growing in a big time. On perishable side, we're leading the region, and in particular in the 2025 versus 2024, and also in the last 2-3 years. So exports now on different markets, they're approaching Europe, America in general, intra-South America also, and I mean, Peru is a clear example of what does mean even when we have crisis. A country that is growing. I'm not going to talk about from the political side, but I mean, in terms of trade exports, I think Peru is a clear example of how to sustain, and also they're looking for reliable solutions in terms of transport all that cargo that they need to move to the world, and they're going to need more for that, right? Definitely.
Let me stay with you. To raise the cold chain capabilities or performance in South America and the world, what are the most missing capabilities at the moment? What innovations do we need?
I think we need to integrate, right? I think integration is something very important that we need to focus on, and also to again to provide a sustainable solutions, right? It's integration in our case again with first mile, last mile. When we use this companies that we own recently, like CryoPDP, when we can offer sustainable solutions for the first and last mile, and also giving visibility of the whole supply chain, is something that really makes them confident to deliver what they need, even though it is for the pharma sector, even though that is for the perishable side. Yeah.
Galo.
I agree. I do believe that integration is a key part of what we can, we as an industry, we should do. I believe that the position of airlines, cargo agencies, my recommendation, I always tell them, is sit with the customers and listen until it hurts. That's what I usually say. Listen until it hurts the needs of the final consumer, understand the markets. There's a lot of value and things and extra costs that we have because we just don't have a straight line communication. And that goes more than just synchronizing ERPs. That goes to truly understanding what is that we're looking for, what is the origin of the cargo, what is the consumer looking for. I was early in a data conference that was very fascinating what the panel said. I believe that data should not be considered as data by silos. So it's not what the airline data does, it's not the cargo agency data does, it's not me as a producer, exporter, and distributor data does. It has to be transversal. It has to be the way you have to start reading, and we have to start reading data is transversal. It's what is important for me, what are my metrics, how you manage my business, what is important for me. Not necessarily many times it's revenue. It is productivity, it's time, other scales of efficiency, it's productivity per square foot, different kind of chargeable box in the box. I mean, we have to integrate as the industry, and I can guarantee that the profitability of each one of the parts will increase as long as the service to the final consumer.
So you say missing capabilities are more on the technology and tech integration side than on the hardware side.
Completely right. And see data transversal. Sometimes we focus only on our silo data as an airline, what is important for us, as an exporter, what is important for us, as a cargo agency. But we have to see as a customer satisfaction, not as a cost revenue, payload revenue. No, it's a customer satisfaction in a transversal way.
Anna, what missing capabilities?
No, I fully agree. I think it's the integration or the orchestration of the ecosystem. I think integration is one way of doing this. The other one is joining the dots by having a really good understanding of how the ecosystem functions. Because like I said earlier, I think there's a risk of overinvestment as well as underinvestment if each silo just looks at their own box. And that's, I think, a biggest risk to perishables in particular.
Got it. One sentence each, and that's the closing. In the next 24 months, trust in perishables and pharma will be won by companies that do what specifically?
Listen to their customer.
Listen to the customer.
I stole your answer, did I?
So I will say innovation, for sure. Innovate the service, innovate the product. Innovation is the key of the success in the next 24 months.
Pano?
Fully agree with both. And I will add, trust, I think, will be won by companies that really control handovers, right?
Yeah.
And give real-time visibility on what's happening in the whole supply chain. Because at the end, they want to be on the markets, and they have to select real, trustable suppliers that really can give those. And of course, there's some additionals, but you said one sentence, I'll keep it that way. So,
Got it. But that's a great takeaway. First, trust is won in the handling on the ground, not in the air, despite we're talking air freight here. And second, it's kind of tech innovation and integration. Let me close with those takeaways. Thank you very much. It's been a pleasure having you here.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.